On this video, we're going to talk about one of your skin's main functions, which we know is to sense your environment around you. So we're going to talk about a few of the sensory receptors which are on your skin. Unfortunately, we don't get to go deep into your sensory responses. We just run out of time in A&P1. So we're just going to hit a few of them, and the four that we're going to look at are going to be the Merkel disc, the Miser's corpuscle, the Ruffini corpuscle, and the Pacinian corpuscle. So those are the four that we're going to talk about. And so I've got this slide up. Just notice where they're located. And so you can see we've got, this is your epidermis. There's that basement membrane wave, and so we'll notice that these Merkel discs are right underneath that basement membrane there, and those are where those little receptors are going to be. The Merzer's corpuscles also right underneath there. And we've got this Ruffini. The fact that it's going this way is kind of important of what it does. And then the Pacinian is down more in the reticular layer. So let's go to our note page. And so we were writing underneath this, which is where we're going to continue to write. So while we got this on the page, there we talked about the Merkel cell last time, and we talked about how the Merkel cells is for sensing light touch. Well, the Merkel disc is right underneath it. So this is labeled tactile disc, but tactile means touch. This is the Merkel disc. Basically, this little cell will send that information to this little receptor that's right here in that basement membrane. So this is actually where the Merkel disc is. In fact, you could change that to be Merkel, which is right above it there. So this is where that Merkel disc is, right there at that basement membrane. Let's scroll down and we go underneath where we were writing those types of cells, and now we're going to write the sensory receptors. Let's start with those Merkel disc. And so the Merkel disc, and again with disc you're going to see it can be spelled with K or C, whichever you prefer. So those are touching the Merkel cells. They're right underneath the Merkel cells. So they are in contact with the Merkel cells. They're the receptors. We'll talk about receptors more when we get into the nervous system. And I'm just going to review that Merkel cells was in that stratum basale, or the basal stratum. So these guys are touching them, and they're right on that basement membrane. Remember, that basement membrane is the bottom of that epithelial, that stratified squamous epithelial tissue. And so the job of those Merkel discs is to pick up light and fine touch. So they're the ones closest to you, even though that it looks like in the epidermis, it looks like a long way. Remember, your epidermis is not really that thick. So those are the Merkel disc. And so also underneath that basement membrane, we find these Meissner corpuscles. And because of where they're located, they're also underneath that basement membrane. They're also for fine touch. But the difference, the way they're constructed, they also pick up small vibrations. So they're picking up some not just real fine-tuned touches, but also some vibrations. So sometimes you can feel vibrations there. And these are specifically located in that papillary layer, sublayer if you want, of the dermis. Okay, and then as we move on, we get the Pacinian corpuscle. And they're located deeper in the reticular layer, so they are actually going to feel more heavy pressure based on their location. and deep touch and vibration. Still some vibrations going on, but it'd have to be deeper vibrations for it to feel that. And so those are in the reticular layer, sublayer, I guess, of the dermis. And our last one is the Ruffini corpuscle. And if we notice, those were going like horizontal direction in that reticular sublayer. And so they are actually going to detect stretching, your skin stretching, based on how they're located. So they get stretches of the skin. About to run out of room for my G. So skin stretching there. So those are our 4 main receptors that you need to know for your integumentary system.